like maybe to make sure that maybe we can be able to understand all the topics that we have already covered. I will give you all the topics that are examinable, that you require more of your time to understand, because you must be asked in your questions, and you cannot miss a question from those parts. And before I do that, today I don't want to take too much of your time. Maybe we can take 1 hour or 1 hour and 20 minutes so that we can go through part of the firewall that I want us to go through. Then after that, we will be able now to, I will be able to leave you now to go and look at all the questions that have challenges, so that next time when we meet, we can be able now to look at the question that we can start with. And then maybe we do some thorough revisions. So I would like you use your past papers. But before we continue, maybe we can give your views on a part of introduction before I start on firewalls. Is there any challenge on where we started, or before where we started? Because I know you are having another teacher, so do you have any challenge on introduction part? So do you have any challenge? Yes, Ian, I can see you are typing. Evans, do you have any issue? Okay. So according to Ian, we can revise. What about Evans? Evans, do you have any issue? Yes, Evans? Okay. The conclusion is we will revisit those parts. That is from next week. We will be able to start from introduction, and we will be able to tackle each and every topic up to where we started. I know that there are some topics that we need to cover on introduction, and I think I can use PowerPoint maybe to air out the parts of introduction that we need to discuss. And following your course outline that you have, I hope you have that course outline. If you don't have, please, you can tell me. I said the course outline. So if you look at our course outline, what we need to look at introduction, we need to look at definitions, definition of terms. And in this definition of terms, what we need to look at, we can maybe look at what is communication, maybe what is a node, maybe what is a node, maybe what is a multiplexing, maybe what is a server, what is a client, maybe what are devices, etc. Because those are various topics that we were supposed to cover on that. And after that, that is when you looked at what you call data communication. And then data communication, we are looking at now how we can be able to communicate to different users using different devices, the nodes that we have already talked about. And that's why we looked at the channel. So we still need to look at another definition, which we call a channel. So in this, that is where we looked at the channel, where we started with the setting or a SEDA. Then we said maybe we use communication systems. Maybe from the communication system, we said we have, before communication system, we said we have encoder. Maybe we have communication system. We have encoder, decoder. Then after that, we have receivers. So all those are the channels that we talked about, of which we'll be able to revisit it with the time, the moment we have that. Then from that, we talked about classifications. Classifications of a network. And within this classification of network, we understand that we have peer, P2P, P2P, and we have the server-based. And that is why we said when you look at now in this communication, we need to understand the type of communication. Maybe we can still look at type of communication. Either we are using simplex communication, or we are using full duplex communication, and many other that you have in that communication. Maybe we have half duplex communication. So we'll be able to revisit those. Then after that, that is when we looked at what you call the types of networks. And these types of networks are not new to you, because you look at LAN, we look at WAN, we look at MAN, we look at campus area network, CAN, we look at personal area network, and maybe if you can be able to understand, we have the VPNs, virtual private networks, that you are supposed to understand on that. And there are many challenges that you find here. And the challenges that you find, these are the ones that we said we have jitters. We have jitters, and we have distortion. We have distortion. We have attenuations, and many others. So these are just a summary of what we had in introduction, but this is part of it. But there are some things that we need to understand inside the introduction part of this communication. Then after that, maybe we can understand protocol. And I think we started from that protocol. We started from protocol. And within this introduction, there are many things that I'll be able to talk about inside the introduction part. Where when you look at now the channel, how does it communicate? What are the impasses that we have within the communication? When you look at networks, classification of networks, what are the advantages, maybe on how you can be able to communicate? When you look at this, maybe in LAN, you find that there are some challenges, and these challenges are solved by what you call carrier sense multiple access with collision detection, or maybe collision avoidance, or maybe we can use what you call the access control as part of a way that you can be able to solve all these issues that we have within the communication of a network. So within this, then that is when we talk about technologies. And most of these technologies that we have is what you call the wired technology and the wireless technology. So when you're looking at the wired technology, there are different topologies used. Before we come to this, there are topology used. Maybe we have bus topology, we have star topology, and many other that we have when we are talking about the wired. But when you are talking about the wireless, this is where sometimes, if you look at, if you advance, there is another unit that is mostly covered, and it takes time. And I would urge you, maybe you look at that and maybe be able to understand how it is supposed to be tackled. And we understand what is wireless technology. So in this case, we need to look at topologies. Topologies used, and one of the topology that is mostly used within this is when you look at now what you call distributed topology. Then we have the centralized technology. Let's look at the mobile phone that we use. It uses a distributed technology where the services is coming from the base station, and the base station is either Safaricom. But when you're looking at that communication, there is one technology that is mostly used in one technology, which is called PSTN, Public Switched Communication Network, Public Switched Communication Network, that is mostly used to control the network communication. And when it is controlling the network communication, it is controlling the network communication in all diversities. Maybe if you are talking about Safaricom, Airtel, Orange, etc., they are being controlled by the PSTN. So in this case, we can say the PSTN is mostly on a communication authority. So it is controlled by the government. It's controlled by the government. So the government is the one that is controlling all these communication in terms of what are the things that we need to control. One, we need to control about tariffs. Maybe we need to control about security of individual. So security of individual. That's when maybe somebody does what you call cyber stalking or cyberbullying. So automatically you can be sued, and the government is the one that is supposed to take through the case. Tariff, maybe if you look at Safaricom, it is charging 5 bob from Safaricom to Safaricom. From Safaricom to Airtel, maybe we have another charge. Now, in this case, why? If now the government, if there now a certain department or maybe a certain network tries to change the tariffs, maybe I say that I want to use 20 bob. Now, automatically the government intervenes through what you call the communication authority. So it is the one that is controlling the access. So it can control the access. When are we supposed to access this network? So we'll be able to look at this. And that's why, if you look at the wireless technologies are most of these improved technologies. We have Wi-Fi, we have Bluetooth, and maybe other Bluetooth. We have Bluetooth and many other that we have, maybe that you can use either as an individual, as a single communication, or as a double communication. Oh, sorry. I'm sorry. I had not shared. Please, I'm sorry for that. I think I can get back to this. That is what we are saying we need to look at. I'm sorry for that. I had not shared. So this is what we are saying. We need to look at the communication. We need to look at the channels of communications. That is introduction. We need to look at types of networks that we have, and how should we solve the issues of networks within the communication. Use either carrier sense multiple access with collision detection or collision avoidance, or use the access control. Then we look at maybe the types of networks, and one of them is one man, CAN, PAN, VPN. We still have LAN, etc. Then challenges. What are challenges that are involved within the communication? One of them is jitters, distortion, attenuation, etc. Topologies used. We look at these topologies. And in most cases, because we are looking at the WAN and wireless technology, in wired, we use this. But when you talk about in wired, we use this. But when you talk about in wireless, we talk about distributed and centralized. Then we will still look at PSTN. Remember, this is what I was explaining. PSTN, public switched telecommunication network, is the one that is controlled by the government. And one docket that is given that mandate is the CA, Communication Authority, that controls the network communications. And this network communication is either switching on and off of the communication, that is the network, or controlling the tariffs, controlling the security of individuals, controlling the access of individuals, and making sure that we have the right communication for these devices that we have. So we look at this in terms of understanding in detail so that we can be able to come up with a conclusion. And that's why we are saying the improved technologies that we find within the wireless, one is Wi-Fi, wireless fidelity. We have the Bluetooth and many others that we have nowadays. We have Ducto. Still, Ducto can be termed as a part of it that allows you to share files, that allows you to share data within the network when you are connected within a given network. So all these we'll be able to add with other presentations that we have. And I think what I started with is what we call the protocols, where we discuss about different types of protocols and maybe how we can, using what you call the OSI layers, using the OSI layers, and what you call the TCP stroke IP. Sometimes we call it the internet layers that we have within the communication. So for this case, maybe allow me to first of all pause at that point, or maybe to end at that point, so that next time when we come, we will be able to start from introduction. We'll be able to understand why we need to have all these before we come to this protocol. And that's why I have said, if you want to understand more on wireless technology, because in our case, we are looking at wired. If you want to understand more on wireless technology, and we try to understand about satellites, how it is communicated, or how it is connected. Remember, we still have to look at now different types of communications in terms of what you call line of sight communication, maybe using satellite. And it's very interesting because if you look at the satellite nowadays, we are looking at one of the satellites that we have in our country for data communication, for video communications, or maybe for shooting some data from one point to another. We always understand that line of sight is mostly applicable because of the networks that we use. Maybe the Safaricom, it uses line of sight. So you'll be able to look at this. Maybe if you're using horn, what is a horn in communication? We are using discs, parabolic discs. These discs that we always use to allow communication, the Safaricom uses that. Maybe to allow communication. If you go to the CA, where it is located, you can see those discs. What are the advantages of those discs? So all those are part of introduction that you're supposed to cover in data communication. You allow me, maybe we start that next time or next week, because today I wanted us to complete with what you call the firewall. So I think we are okay up to that point, so that next time we can maybe start from that introduction. We can start from that introduction. So allow me maybe to move to that part, which we are calling firewalls. Allow me to use that. So can we move to that part? Can we move to that firewalls? Okay, there is, what about the Wi-Fi? As I think you can maybe elaborate further, Ian. L means what? Li. Li means what? Light fidelity. I think it's a connection of wireless fidelity. But maybe we can do a research on that. It's just a connection of that. If you look at the advanced communication, maybe. I'm not sure on that. Just do a research on this. So I think we can move to firewalls so that I can end this presentation that I'm talking about. So if you look at what we discussed about the communication, we said a network. This is one of the security mechanisms that you are supposed to make sure that now you have within your computer in order to always make sure that the network is not having some issues. And I was looking at a challenge that we can have. We find that if your firewall is off, it means your proxy server. So it's like we have already done away with proxy server. It's like we have done away with what you call the proxy server. A proxy server mostly is the one that allows you to connect on a remote networks. Right now, you are using a site, a website. But this website that you are using currently and the network that you are using, it can block the proxy server. And when it blocks the proxy server, it means that you cannot access that website. So for you to bypass that proxy server, sometimes we use this, and I want to go directly to the internet so that you can understand what I'm talking about. Firewalls is always implemented on a proxy server. We use what you call the browse. I'll use my internet maybe to download that browsec. We use the browsec, which is a free limited that allows you to connect, maybe to bypass the proxy. So if I don't want to use a proxy, which is very wrong, because if I don't want to use a proxy, that means my computer is not secure. And I was trying to download one because I had already implemented that. I don't want to remove because I had already installed it. I had already installed it in my computer, and this is the one that I had already installed. I think you can see that. So when I say protect me, so automatically there are some countries that allow this. So you can we use American. We use American. If you can see, this one is the one that has, if you look at this, this one, this one, this one, this one, this one, you can use one of them and it is able to communicate. So it means you'll be able to bypass your password within that. And when I'm using this platform that you call help desk, help desk. If I'm using help desk and maybe I want to access your computer, I had already still installed that. I can still use that. AnyDesk. If I want to use this, maybe I can use AnyDesk. And maybe when you try to download on your side, and maybe we can try this. If you're using your computer, maybe you can download an application called AnyDesk, and maybe you can send the IP address as we continue. And then I will be able to enter this address that you give me. Then when I press enter, automatically I'll be able to connect. So maybe who is using a computer here? Is there anybody who is using a computer? or a laptop. So anybody who is using a laptop here? I don't want to use with the one who is using a phone. Evans and Ian, what are you using? Okay, you're using a phone? Okay, don't worry. Next time we'll be able to look at now how we can be able to use a phone. I don't want to use your phone at this time because we'll be able to interrupt with our class. But the moment you are using this AnyDesk, and then I try to, maybe if you download that application, always it gives you this code. So if you send this code to me, and then I enter here, I connect, I will be able to see all the files that you have in your computer. So in this case, if you try to unlock the proxy, so it means this computer is not, you can be able to, the site that is connected or the network that you're using currently, whoever is controlling that, the administrator can be able to bypass everything that you have or can delete everything that you have. So for you to avoid all those communications, that's why we always make sure that now the server is always connected. And when it is connected, you can be able to see all the information. So I was saying you can bypass. I don't want to bypass this because I'm putting my computer to threat. I'm putting my computer to threat, so I switch off. I use the normal one. I was using this because I was trying to use this e-learning platform, and it was not working. The network provider, which provided to me to this internet, was had already blocked the site. So what I did is to bypass the proxy so that I can use that site, irrespective of whether it is blocked or not. So it is like we are hiding. But I'm putting my computer to a threat. That's why I have switched over, because now they rectified that, and now they can be able to, I can be able to access using their proxy, So that's why we are saying the firewall is one of the important part of the communication, because the moment you go to that or you block to that, automatically you are blocking what you call the firewalls, and the firewall is not working. So you understand the function of a firewall is always to protect inside network and outside network. And if you can look at the definition here, we are saying the firewall is a device that filters. The work is to filter. Filter means if anything is coming inside which is not a good information, so automatically it is blocked. And I think I trying to work with maybe the presentation of firewalls here, and maybe I was looking at this interpretation here. I don't want maybe. So we find all these are communications that are created on our firewalls. Mostly we use the upper bounds. If you can, maybe you can use maybe the client. I don't know whether there is somewhere we have the client. Start client. Oh no, let me see. So all these. Just a minute. If it fails, maybe I'll be able to continue. So I look for that because we have a lot of connections here. So you can see this, the core network, we are using IP version 6, which is it's not supposed to be around currently, because we are not supposed to use IP version 6. Okay, maybe check the status which we are supposed to look at. So filter by state, show all. So you can see we are showing all. Filter by is enabled, so you can filter everything. But I wanted to see this communication. Okay. Just maybe we can look at other views of interpretations. So where we are saying inside network and less trustworthy on outside networks. So anything that is coming from outside and anything that is moving outside the network, it is always controlled by this, what you call the firewall. When you design the firewalls, we always invoke or reference must be tamper-proof. So if it is deleting, it should be able to delete. If it is invoking, in a return. If this information is not supposed to be accessed automatically, it revokes those communications, of which we have different types of firewalls. I don't want to go on deep on these types of firewalls because one of them we have the packet filtering gateways or screen routers, stateful inspection firewalls, application proxy. Remember, we are using proxy, which is very important. GANs, we have personal firewalls, and all these are able to perform some functions on each and every situation that we have. And within these communications, we always understand that there is a lot of communication that goes on application, because this is where we look at now packets that are supposed to be sent or data that is supposed to be sent in and out. If you can see this, it is using port 25. And if you can be able to go directly to port number 25, this is what we say it is using telnet protocol. It uses what you call the telnet protocol, which is at port number 25 in terms of network communication. And that's why we understand that this application, we always use these applications in most cases where we understand that we can be able to send messages, we can be able to send emails, we can be able to look at light data communication and many other that we have. GANs are proxy. These are like proxy firewalls, and that's why I've said if you do away with these proxy firewalls, automatically now you are putting your computer onto a thread. Personal firewalls, these are able to block the unwanted files or traffics that we have in your computer. So if you look at most of the threats that you find because of some insecure computers, we always find one of them is denial of service. And denial of service, it becomes as an intrusion. And this intrusion, it must be affected. It must affect the communications that we have. So that's why we always install what you call intrusion detection systems. And this intrusion detection system, they are able to respond to a certain alarm that has already been communicated. I think you have ever downloaded a certain data and then it tells you the server has been blocked. Might be it is a proxy server that has been blocked, or the proxy itself has already blocked the communication that is within the line of sight when you have that communication. So if you can understand this, in this case, when you're using security, that is why we said we use what you call encryption. And encryption, and this encryption is when you maybe put a text in ciphertext. So you have what you call the cipher text in terms of communication, so that we can now allow more data communication in this. So for this case, we cannot exhaust the firewalls in terms of communications, because we must be able to go to security in deep, where we need to look at simple security, multiplied security in terms of communications, how we can be able to look at solving those using some algorithms. And most of these algorithms are covered in network security as a unit. So allow me to end at that point. If there is a question, maybe you can ask. And when I end at that point, I want you to go. I am leaving this as part of a class that we are supposed to do, you go to your question paper and then you look at the topics that are that have issues. And because now we have said we will start from introduction, just look at the topics that are from where we started with the protocols, etc. Remember, most of the topics that we are supposed to understand, and we cannot miss questions from that. Just understand the way we can calculate the Nyquist theorem. We can calculate using the Nyquist theorem. Maybe we understand about the modulations in total. Modulation. That is analog to analog modulation, digital to analog, etc. Remember, when you're talking about Manchester modulation, when you're talking about differential, all those, you need to understand them. You cannot miss a question from there. So you must have a question from all those topics that we covered. Then understand about the technology that we have already discussed, and maybe the OSI layer. So try to understand the OSI layer and the internet layer, and you'll be able to make sure that you can be able to solve some issues or maybe some questions from all those topics that we have. Understand about switching. Remember, switching is a very common question in NEC. Understand about multiplexing and how it is supposed to communicate on that. So what I want you to do is go to your past paper, look at the questions, that how they are examined. Maybe you can look at the question, maybe the question paper. Just look at any question paper that you have, just one. And then you go through the question paper. You tell me how many topics, maybe all the topics that we have covered. Have we catered for all topics that we have covered? If you have not catered for those topics that we have covered, next class, the first thing that I will ask is how many topics did you come across that we have not covered in that question paper? And you tell me the year of that question paper that we discussed. Is that clear? Is that clear? Because if it is a revision, we must start from there. Go to your question paper, any question paper that we have, and maybe we can try to communicate, Evans and Ian, maybe because we are the ones who are in this class for now, you can try to communicate. If now Evans is tackling on 2016, maybe Ian still you can, if Ivan is tackling on 2016, maybe Ian you can tackle on 2017, so that we cannot have two people doing the same paper. So you go through the question paper, all the questions that we have, just write aside. This is topic 1, topic 2, maybe this is multiplexing etc. until you solve all the issues. Then you come and say, this topic we have not covered, or this topic we have covered, but we have not understood. So let's at that point, and then maybe we can continue from next week as part of a thorough revision. And I will start from introduction, but before that, I will start from taking all the questions that are challenging. Then after that, I will be able now to go to the introduction. We do some recap, and then we start now our revision. Is it okay now? So can I move, or can I give you time now to go through the question papers and maybe try to come up with some questions that are challenging? Okay, let's meet next week. Thank you.